The country has been kept in suspense for over 48 hours, but finally NASA spoke. Okay? And the reaction from most NASA supporters is worry. Yeah, they're deeply worried. Expectations, I think, were very high. I think a lot of the expectations, going by what we, the pronouncements we had, the tweets from Raila, a lot of people were expecting the NASA people to table irrefutable evidence that would show to the whole world that the election was a sham, without doubt, yeah, and that that would create a situation in the country where which would allow NASA to have a fighting chance of overturning the election of President Uhuru. It didn't happen. So NASA supporters are very worried. More so because Raila said that NASA are now going to court. Surprise, surprise. Yeah. Orengo had told us very emotionally and very forcefully, we are not going to court. He had said that repeatedly. Okay. But now it seems that there's a change of strategy. Okay, so let's just analyze this. This is going to be a fairly long recording. Maybe I'll do it in 2 or 3 parts, so please be patient with me. Let's look at all the aspects so that we understand this better, and so that also NASA supporters stop being confused. They understand exactly where we are and where we're going. Okay, so if you have that cup of coffee, whatever helps you to think, whatever helps you to relax, just relax. Let's go through this carefully so that we know exactly what we're up against here. Now, I told you in an earlier recording yesterday that there was an argument within, or rather a difference in opinion within NASA, powerful forces within NASA. One side of the divide said that they should go to court. The other side of the divide said they should not go to court. Yeah, both sides with good reason. Okay. Now, what I've learned, my inside information, is that a consensus was reached, and that they decided to go for both. Actually, that's the position. Because if you listen to Raila's statement properly, he said this is just the beginning. Isn't that how he ended his press conference? And even earlier, before he mentioned the court thing, which a lot of people missed because the court thing just came and overshadowed everything else, he said very clearly, we are going to seek all other means, constitutional means, yes, to resist. Yeah, that includes keeping vigil, he mentioned that, okay, demonstrations and so on and so forth. So protests and picketing are still on the table as per what Raila said. Okay, of course they could change their position. You see, NASA in a very difficult position. Many of us will not understand the kind of position they're in, because they've been boxed into a corner by Jubilee. Very, very clever political maneuvering by Jubilee. Okay, as I've analyzed in an earlier recording. Jubilee have managed to get all the forces, international community behind them. Yeah, and this has not been, actually, to be honest, this has not been very difficult, because the international community, every time you mention Kenya, their mind thinks about 2007, and they don't want a repeat of that, and they're ready to go to any length, including accepting a rigged election, a fraudulent election, so that we just avoid the troubles of 2007. That is the position of most diplomats. Now the position is, if because anything can happen in Kenya, if NASA manages to successfully file the petition by Friday, which is the deadline, today is Wednesday, so they only have tomorrow, okay, to organize their papers. And this is not easy. Filing, putting up a petition is not an easy matter. It's not just writing one paragraph of a foolscap. It's a very complex. You have to collect a lot of material, and IBC is not helping. Because as I prepare this recording, and maybe that should also be presented as evidence, IBC have still not given us the official results of the elections. They have not. They have not even made the famous Form 34Bs available, let alone the 34As, which they say they don't have all of them. Some are missing, or wherever they are. Yeah, so it's complex. Yeah, but anyway, they have that. If they can make it to court, to the Supreme Court by Friday, then what it means is that the swearing in arrangements of President Uhuru Kenyatta will be put to a halt. Okay? And then of course the Supreme Court has to listen to this petition and make a ruling within 14 days. Okay, so we are talking roughly about early September, 1st of September, I think. I stand to be corrected, but I believe it will be 1st of September. They have to make a ruling by then. Now, 2 weeks is a very long time. A lot of things can happen in that space of time, okay? And I'm sure NASA are going to do a lot of things within those 2 weeks, okay? Apart from presenting their case, well, according to their press conference, okay? Now, we have a problem in Kenya. If I can just take you back to 2013. In 2013, we had a problem with the Supreme Court. There are rumors, okay, I'll just call them that. There are rumors that there was a lot of pressure on the Chief Justice, okay? Which, in other words, if I can just say it in black and white, there was pressure from the executive towards the Supreme Court, okay? Now, that is exactly what the common man in Kenya fears. And that is why a lot of NASA supporters are restless. Because they're saying, aye, this thing is going to go to court. Will the court be fair? You know? Because in 2013, there were a lot of suspect things that happened. There was a lot of key evidence which NASA presented, which was rejected on technicalities, okay? Very, very key evidence which was rejected on technicalities, okay? But let's look at it on the bright side. 2017 is not 2013, okay? In 2017, what has happened is whitewashing. You know, in 2013, at least in the feature, yeah? There was a lot of thinking involved. There was a lot of kuficha vitu, you know. There was a lot of hiding of things. It was not so obvious, okay? But in 2017, it was as clear as daylight. Now, being as clear as daylight to an observer is not the same thing as having enough irrefutable evidence. Okay, that's number one. Number two, by the very nature of this particular kind of petition, for a Supreme Court to overturn the election of a presidency, they really have to be convinced that that is the best course of action to take. Because you realize that will disrupt a lot of things, yeah? So they have to be convinced enough to disrupt. That's really the issue, okay? And that's why NASA have cause for concern. They have reason to be concerned about the fact that NASA are going to court. However, don't forget that the same strategists in NASA who have brought the party up to this point where they kept Jubilee sweating, even though in the end Jubilee managed to get their way, they were sweating up to the finishing line. That one I can assure you. And of course, the latest sweating was manufacturing of Form 34Bs and Form 34As. Yeah, Raila mentioned that in his statement. He said there's a lot of manufacturing. Okay. Anyway, so the same brains are still there. Okay, and it seems that to encourage NASA supporters, it seems that what has been decided is a two-pronged attack. The original attack of not going to court, but getting constitutional means, you know, going to the court of public opinion is still very much on. Okay, if I understood NASA properly. But then at the same time, they will go to court. Now, there's something very interesting here. Earlier on, I had gotten some inside information. You know, I get all kinds of information all the time. Not all of it I share here, because normally I like to verify my information before I share it here. Yeah, because the last thing I want to do is lose your trust. And it's very easy, yeah, because I can rush you with some information and I don't have enough of my facts because I just think it's a sensational story. I think it's a good story. Or maybe I'm overcome by emotions, I rush here, and then I give you a story which is just fake. I can never do that. And that is why a lot of the information I receive, maybe I use only 10% of what I receive. A lot of the information I receive, I just I try and process it, keep it pending. Some of it I release in Club 1999, very highly sensitive. But mostly what I give you here is what I have been able to verify. So this is information which I have not been able to verify to date. But somebody told me that the NASA strategy actually was that they were going to go ahead with the court of public opinion thing and then file a petition in the Supreme Court through somebody else. You know, through either an individual or through somebody else. You see? So that the petition is not officially NASA, the petition is through a voter, a NASA supporter, which is acceptable. It's very acceptable in law. Okay, that's what I thought. So right from the word go, I had a pretty good idea that NASA would make an appearance of some sort in court, even if not as NASA, as somebody else. Okay, so really not much has changed from that view I had, from the information I had, because now it has just been made official that NASA will go to court as NASA. Really, that's what it is. So there's not much change. If you look at it from that point of view, there isn't really very much change in the strategy that NASA has been announcing from before. But effectively what Raila's announcement has done, because most people wait to hear in black and white, what it has done is to ease a lot of tension in the country. A lot of people in the country, when they hear that NASA will be in demonstrations, they just have a small heart attack, because they know they'll not be able to work, they'll not be able to do any business, it will just be closing a business all the time because of demonstrators, etc., etc. So a lot of people are upset with the NASA, they're upset at Raila Odinga because of that. Okay? So this is what was creating the tension. People are thinking, how will kids go back to school? How will even the kids enjoy their holiday with so much tension in the country? And so on and so forth. Yeah. So people breathed a very high relief when they just heard the words "we shall go to court," without interrogating the rest of the statement. They just heard "we shall go to court." The whole country breathed. Yeah, everybody, the whole country heaved a big sigh of relief. Okay, that is the position. But the truth of the matter, if you look at it more deeply, is that nothing has changed. Okay. Now, in the next part, we're going to go into this a bit more deeply and look at the other factors. But it's very important that we take note of those 2 points, of those points that I've expressed here, that really nothing has changed. So that the civil strife, constitutional that is, we should still expect that. Tensions definitely are going to rise again in the country once people realize that actually nothing has changed. Yeah. But I also believe NASA have some very creative ways of which they're going to take this forward. Yeah, very, very creative ways. Yeah. But anyway, see you in the next part of this recording. It should be out. You'll have to give me a few 30 hours or 1 hour or so if you came to this recording early. And within that time, as soon as it's ready, it will be on the top left hand corner of your screens. Then you'll be able just to click on it and be able to go to part 2, where we can discuss this further. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for listening to me. See you on the other side. This is Chris Kumekucha.